Welcome to This Explainer. Think about it for a second. When was the last time you saw a huge, expensive marketing campaign just completely flop? And then, on the flip side, some tiny, low-budget message goes absolutely viral and sells out a product in literal minutes. Crazy, right? Well, why does that happen? Today, we're unpacking a foundational learning module focused entirely on consumer psychology and behavioral insights that answers exactly that question. If you really want to know the actual core drivers behind how your customers make decisions, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to go way beyond those surface-level metrics to break down a deep, actionable framework of consumer insight, and then we'll translate those concepts into delivery messages that actually work. Okay, let's dive right into this really profound first idea. The source material opens with a super specific, uncompromising directive: understand the consumer's heart and soul. Now, before we even begin to look at business mechanics, sales funnels, or conversion rates, we have to look deeply at the human element. What does heart and soul actually mean in a business context anyway? Well, think of a brand that failed because they only looked at demographics. Maybe they knew their target audience was, males aged 18 to 35, so they just blasted them with technical specs. Now, contrast that with a brand that wins. A successful sports apparel company doesn't just sell moisture-wicking fabric. They sell the emotional resonance of overcoming adversity. They sell grit. The text isn't just asking us to know basic stats, it's demanding that we comprehend the deep emotional and psychological core of the exact people we're trying to reach. So here's our agenda for today. We'll be covering 5 main areas. 1, the heart and soul. 2, how customers select products. 3, the core triad, which is psychology. 4, unpacking motivations and behavior. And finally, 5, crafting the delivery message. Let's get right to it. Section 1, the heart and soul. Understand the consumer. As we noted from the source, this module isn't just about spreadsheets and market trends. Don't get me wrong, data is incredibly important, but data really only tells you what happened in the past. It definitely doesn't tell you why it happened. The text explicitly states we must strive to understand the consumer's heart and soul, which means moving beyond that surface-level data to target the human core. When you understand the heart, you understand emotional resonance. But when you understand the soul, you understand their deepest values and their identity. People fundamentally buy products that align with their self-image. Like, if your customer views themselves as an eco-conscious pioneer, they aren't buying an electric vehicle just to save on gas, they're buying it to validate who they are. Grasping that identity is the absolute true starting line for any effective customer interaction. Moving on to Section 2, how customers select products, using products. Ask yourself this crucial question, which comes directly from the source text. How do customers actually select and use products and services? Now notice the 2 very distinct verbs here, select and use. It's a continuous timeline, and treating them as the exact same thing is a massive mistake. Selecting is like the courtship, using is the marriage. Take a gym membership as a concrete example. The whole process of selecting a gym is highly driven by aspiration, right? It's New Year's Eve, the customer wants to run a marathon, they want to completely transform their life. But the process of actually using that gym week after week, that's driven by habit, friction, and convenience. Is the gym on their commute home? Is it way too crowded at 5 p.m.? We've got to master both halves of that equation. You market to the aspiration to drive the selection, but you absolutely must design the experience for convenience to drive the actual usage. Section 3, the core triad, psychology, mainly concerned with. According to the source, this module is mainly concerned with 3 pillars: psychology, motivations, and behavior. And you'll notice the cyclical nature here. These aren't just isolated silos. Psychology sets the stage and feeds directly into motivation. Then that motivation is the spark that pushes a consumer into a specific behavior. And here is the really crucial part. When that behavior results in a positive outcome, it feeds right back into and reinforces the psychology, building brand loyalty. You simply cannot have a complete picture of your consumer without aligning all 3 of these distinct but super interconnected concepts. So let's break them down one by one. We'll start with the first pillar, psychology. Think of psychology as the underlying mental framework. It's kind of like the operating system running in the background of their minds long before they even realize they need your product. It involves their cognitive biases, their background beliefs, and how they process information. For example, let's look at price perception through the lens of a consumer's psychological framework. If a consumer's internal operating system highly values luxury, status, and exclusivity, they're going to see a $500 t-shirt as a mark of premium quality. But if their operating system values extreme frugality and utility, they will see that exact same t-shirt as a total ripoff. You aren't just selling a shirt. Your message is being actively filtered through their pre-existing belief system. And that is exactly why understanding their underlying mental framework is completely mandatory. Section 4. Unpacking motivations and behavior. Main concerns. While psychology is the broad operating system, motivation is the active spark. Motivation is almost always driven by a desire to escape a specific pain point or to achieve a joyful outcome. That intense motivation pushes them toward the solution. It requires us to unpack exactly why a customer feels that compelling internal drive in the first place. Think about someone buying a power drill. The motivation isn't that they inherently desire a spinning piece of metal. No way. Their motivation is the joy of hanging family photos in their new living room, or maybe escaping the nagging pain of an unfinished project. Without unpacking that specific internal drive, the consumer's journey simply stalls out. Next, the text points to behavior. If motivation is the internal drive, behavior is the external manifestation of that choice. It's the physical act of, say, actually putting an item into a shopping cart. Behavior is what we can observe, measure, and track in the real world through clicks, dwell time, and foot traffic. But as this module teaches us, tracking behavior without understanding the underlying psychology can lead to terribly false conclusions. Imagine a customer abandons their digital shopping cart. The measured behavior simply says, they left. But why? Was the price too high? Was the checkout process broken? Or were they just using your site as a price comparison tool while physically standing in a competitor's retail store? If you only track the behavior without knowing the psychology, you might end up spending thousands of dollars fixing the wrong problem entirely. Section 5. Crafting the delivery message. Communicate. Now let's look at the contrast between the internal process and the external application. On one hand, we have everything we just covered regarding how customers psychologically evaluate, select, and use products. On the other hand, we have the delivery message. The source text explicitly states that the ultimate goal here is to apply the concept of psychology directly into the delivery message. You must take your deep understanding of the consumer's internal world and inject it straight into your external output. That external output, it could be an email subject line, a massive highway billboard, or just a simple text message alert. The internal process dictates what the customer actually cares about, and your external application is the precise combination of words, colors, and timing you use to intercept that internal process. The module is specifically designed to enable participants to take these practical, actionable steps. Let's walk through a rapid hypothetical scenario to see this in detail. Step 1. Understand the psychology. Let's say you realize your target audience is extremely time-poor, stressed out, and overwhelmed by their daily commute. Step 2. Apply that concept into the message. Because you know they're overwhelmed, you definitely don't use dense paragraphs of text. You use short, punchy copy, calming colors, and images of relaxed people. You design the message to feel like a literal breath of fresh air. Then step 3, communicate with the customers. You deliver this message on platforms they actually use during brief moments of downtime. Maybe it's a 15-second audio ad during their morning podcast. Boom. You've now drawn a straight line from grasping their internal heart and soul to executing a highly effective, psychologically tuned communication strategy. Which leaves us with this final, critical thought based on everything we've unpacked today. I want you to take a hard look at your current messaging. Are you truly speaking to your consumer's psychology, or are you just yelling features at them? Because I can promise you this, if your competitor understands your customer's heart and soul better than you do, how long until that customer's behavior shifts entirely to them? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.